just preparing, setting it up. So this is your chance to settle in as we connect in with each other's energies all around the world. And it's an opportunity to step away from whatever you are doing or however you are being up to this moment. To step away and step inside this immersive, sacred storytelling experience. World. And as we do so, we're live on YouTube now. Let us know where you're calling in from, both on Zoom and YouTube. So that's us set up now. And yeah, oh, there's so many of you here already. Absolutely gorgeous. Hello, Jen from Houston, first in the chat. And following straight after is Rama. Hi, Rama. Happiest, wondrous new year. Hello, Max from Dundee. Rama's in North Florida. Hello, Katerina from Germany. You're so welcome. Hi, Anna. Hello from Central Coast, California. Hello, Evie from Dublin. It is a soft day. The rain has come here as well, and it's now 11 degrees at this moment. And it's been in the minus degrees over the last while. So today the temperature shot right back up, and it's raining here too in Scotland. Who else do we have? Hello, Kay from Fair Oaks, California. Hi, Janice from Canada. Hello, Sonia in Ireland. Happy New Year to you. Hi, Anne in frigid Minnesota. It sounds really cold. -5 Fahrenheit. Oh my goodness. Whoa, I can feel the cold in that. And let us know if you're watching on YouTube as well, who is here. So first of all, before we dive in, I would love to light a candle. If you have one handy, feel free to join me. And let's light this candle, this sacred flame. For all of us here today, live in the replay, and all those around the world, the millions and billions of people, with each one of us exactly where we are meant to be right now. So we light this flame for those who are living in joy, in fun, in laughter. And also we hold the flame for those living in scarcity, sacrifice, not safe, war, fire, floods, fleeing. And in our circle, we hold the space here for everything. Everything is welcome and held and supported by this sacred flame. And so I honor you for being here exactly as you are. For it is the celebration of the Divine Father, my father, who's here behind me. Hey, Dad, who would have been 90 today. So to me, he was always an old dad. Maybe that's the way we perceive our parents. And it is his birthday. And it felt really important to celebrate him, celebrate his life and death and rebirth, and also to honor the sacred story within that. So I've got quite a few stories to share here, because when I sent the email originally, I didn't know exactly what stories I was going to share. And I looked through different pieces of writing that I've done over the past few years. And then I thought, oh no, so many of these are about death. And I don't want to show up and just speak about death. So as I culminated the stories, I realized, there is, of course, a pattern here. So it's stories about life, stories about death, and stories about rebirth. So we'll see how we go in the next hour together with exactly which ones wish to be shared. And hello to you who have arrived in now. Susie from Yorkshire in the UK, Ina from Southern California, Stephen from the Northeast Kingdom of Vermont. Hello to you. And Aparajita, Happy New Year and love. Hello, Leanne from Nebraska. Hello, Christine from Colorado Springs. Your father would have been 105 if he was still on Earth. And that's the other funny thing as well, isn't it? That we still count the age. I don't know. I seem to anyway. Hello, Fleur. Lovely to have you here. So yeah, let's take a moment here as we honor our ancestors, our parents who birthed us and brought us into the world, the Divine Father, the Divine Mother. And also in honoring your experience being parented and being brought into this world. That the stories I share here are from and of my heart and the heart of Arthur, my father. And notice how they move through you, because your experience will be different, or you may have some similarities. And as with all sacred stories that are shared, we hold space for exactly the right aspects that rise up within you. So maybe you wish to lie down with a blanket or a warm cup of tea and close your eyes and allow these stories to be a transmission for you. Or perhaps you wish to have a pen and paper by your side just to note down any keywords or phrases that are resonant or activating for you. So whatever is right for you. Aparajita is in New Jersey. Your dad would have been 79 today. He used to be a wonderful dad. That's gorgeous. And Fleur's dad would have been 126. We have fine, ripe ages here, like fine wines. So the first story that wanted to be shared with you all, it's actually about my father's grandparents and how he came to live in West Cork, which is where he was from. And before I dive in, I see people are chatting on YouTube. Hello, Catherine from the Gower Peninsula in Wales. Hello, Janine from Yorkshire, England. It's your paternal grandmother's birthday today. I think she would have been 125 years old. Oh, gorgeous. So this first story is called Johanna and John's House, built in 1900. If you ever find yourself standing outside my father's birth home, look up and you'll see an inscription that tells you the house was built in 1900. I always feel a sense of pride and belonging when I look up and read that inscription high up on the chimney breast. His birth home is situated outside Timoleague in West Cork, Ireland. Timoleague is such a lovely wee village. It boasts the atmospheric ruins of Timoleague Abbey, which overlooks the calm tidal river Arragadeen and the fertile sandy marshes of Courtmacsherry Bay. Tig Malaga is Timoleague in Irish, which means the house of Malaga. Saint Malaga is attributed with bringing beekeeping and honey to Ireland. And I'm sure the goddess is associated with that too. When my cousin died suddenly a number of years ago, we walked behind his coffin for one final lap, one final goodbye around Timoleague village, before he was buried in the graveyard attached to Timoleague Abbey. A very moving and beautiful ritual. The abbey was built on the site of a monastic settlement that was founded by Saint Malaga. And it was also a school of philosophy at one stage during its prime. In 1568, the abbey was confiscated by the English crown, and in 1631, it was plundered and the remaining friars imprisoned. So it's had its fair share of turmoil. But what about that house? Johanna and John's house, built in 1900. Well, Johanna Donovan was my paternal great-grandmother, and her parents both died when she was young. So she inherited the family mill. And it wasn't usual for women to inherit their own land in 19th century colonial Ireland. And on the 6th of March, 1886, Johanna married John Callanan. And my sister has diligently looked up marriage certificates and done a lot of this research, so thanks, sis. On it, Johanna's profession is noted as a servant, while John's profession is that of a smith, a blacksmith, a profession that would continue on with their son, John, my grandfather, and my father's father, who was also a blacksmith at the same forge. And they built the house on the plot where the mill was, beside the River Arragadeen. And we haven't yet figured out what happened to the mill, but John worked across the field in the forge as a blacksmith. And they had 9 children together, all of which were named in the 1901 Irish census. And only 5 of these children were named in the 1911 Irish census. But when I stand in front of that house, the pride I feel, and it must surely have been the same pride that Johanna and John felt living in that house that offered them security, roots, and a legacy that continues on to this day. My cousin built her house in the neighbouring field in 2000. And her son now lives in Johanna's and John's house. So I love how the story continues through the bricks and mortar that sit upon this land. And when I wrote this piece of writing originally, it was actually on the 6th of March, 137 years after Johanna and John's marriage. So Ireland was a very different place back then in 1900 when Johanna and John's house was built. Still under British colonial rule. Queen Victoria was the reigning monarch, who the revolutionary suffragette Maud Gonne called the Famine Queen. But that's a story for another time. So that river, the Arragadeen, it connects the threads of this story all the way home to that house that Johanna and John built in 1900. Thank you for listening. Take a moment to allow those words to wash over you and to connect with the bricks and mortar of your ancestry. And so, the next story that wants to be shared is simply called West Cork. Oh dear, what can the matter be? 3 old ladies locked in the lavatory. They'll be there from Monday to Saturday. Nobody knew they were there. When he started singing this song, I knew we were near. I could feel the excitement building, wanting to explode. Who's going to see the house first? They would ask, probably to keep us quiet in the back of the car. 4 of us squished, cramped, bickering, unflinching, guarding our patch of car space for the whole journey from Dublin to West Cork, which was a long, long way before the roads improved. And then I could smell it. The sea, the sand, the salt, that sweet, summery, ferny smell. And I could hear it. The waves, the wind, the birds, the people. And as we rounded another twist, I could see it. There it was. Yes, in all its glory, the sea, the glorious, wild, vast, expansive sea, so blue and white. The road getting narrower and narrower and rising higher and higher. A very sharp bend, and my father would start up the road with the familiar song again. Sometimes, if I was lucky, I would get a chance to be the driver, sitting on my father's knee and doing the steering all the way up the very steep hill to our holiday home for the week. A long driveway. And a week felt like an eternity of luscious, everlasting, refreshingly summery childhood freedom. We'd meet our many cousins at various houses, catching up, sleepovers, visits, food and fizzy lemonade for us, grown-up drinks for the adults, aunts and uncles, dogs and cats, cows, pigs, sheep, lots and lots of laughter, belly laughing, stories, reacquainting, late nights out, driving home on dark summer evenings. Look, a fox, my father would say, as one ran across the road of the dark, dark country road. And the red poppies, they used to be in bloom in the field beside the holiday home. I loved to wander in this field, finding caterpillars that I'd put into little Tupperware tubs, waiting for them to turn into butterflies. They always seem to escape on their many legs before obliging with any kind of metamorphosis. And my mother would tell me off for getting poppy dye on my white socks before going to Sunday Mass. But I liked it. Spending time with my cousins. One set of cousins taking us off through the wheat-filled fields past the fairy fort. Don't touch the fairy fort, they'd always warn us. Then down, down, down to their private beach, or so we called it, with so much freedom and spaciousness to run, to roam, in the beauty of it all. And then on to my cousin's farm, getting up at the crack of dawn to help milk the cows. Some more milk put aside for the new calves. And I would go and sit with these calves, allowing them to suck my hand, missing their mothers. Time on the beach, Inchydoney, now called an island and spa, but back then it was our beach. And we would walk from our holiday home, down the steep hill, through the thick ferns that rose up above my little body. Beware of the sinking sand, we were told. We usually had to go and have a look out of curiosity. The wild Atlantic water, probably freezing, but gloriously refreshing to us. Visiting my father's birth home, where we've already been, gazing over the wall and into the river running underneath the driveway. Built in 1900, still proudly chiselled in the centrepiece of the chimney breast. And the memory of the old forge, and my grandfather and great-grandfather farriers, blacksmiths. My father and his brother leaning on that wall, arms folded, my uncle smoking his pipe, my father smoking his Hamlet cigars, gazing into the river. There was never much speaking going on as far as I could see, just happy spending time together. They'd tell us stories of roguery. At Mass, when they pegged the old woman's black shawl in front of them together. When the women stood up, the shawls would fall off, leaving my father and his brother as children holding in the hilarious laughter. Or the time they pushed their baby sister in the pram down the hill, curious to see what would happen. And they were in for a shock when the pram veered off course, just missing the river. We loved hearing these stories of simple, mischievous fun over and over again. These memories, they're so precious. Treasures of my childhood, with so much wonder, curiosity, and fun. And the twists and turns of life flow on. And the door creaks open a little wider. Writing about these memories now awakens my childhood curiosity and fun. And Aristotle said, memory is the scribe of the soul. Those women, they may still be locked in the lavatory for all we know. We never fully understood what the connection was with these old ladies and the holiday home that we used to rent, perched on the hill. Yet that was all part of the mystery and humour of my upbringing. And I bring my children, our children, back to these parts again and again, so that they too know their roots. And I share these stories with them, hoping to instill a sense of belonging within them. Isn't that right, Owen, who has just come back from school? You belong to this beauty you've made of your life, as Toka Pat Turner says. And so it is. And Karen is from West Cork and know Timoleague well. Oh, thank you, Karen, for being here and for sharing. It's such a gorgeous place, so special. And Stephen said my mom was from West Galway. It's beautiful. And we honour them all here today. Jessica says, I love hearing your stories, Eimear. Thank you so much. So let's take a moment here. Leanne is sharing, I visited Cork in 2018 with my twin daughters and their families. How gorgeous. I hope you had a great time. Okay, so what wants to be shared next? Hi, are you going to sit there? Are you going to go and get some food? Okay, the next story is called Walking in Their Footsteps. My father would tell the story of how, when he walked the mile or so to primary school as a child with his siblings, his feet would begin to hurt in the shoes he was wearing. So he would take them off and hide them in a bush by the side of the wee country road, preferring to go barefoot, collecting the shoes on his way home. We used to joke as children, asking about which bush, where exactly, and what was it like to walk barefoot to school, not really knowing if he was ever being serious or not. The local secondary school was too far to walk, so for various reasons, my father was the only one of his siblings that went to boarding school. It was a distance of 80 kilometres, travelling from West Cork to East Cork in the town of Fermoy, and he only saw his family at holiday times. St. Coleman's College still stands today in Fermoy, up a hill and proudly overlooking the town. It's no longer a boarding school, but it's still a school only for boys. I always wondered what it was like for my father to walk up that long school path as a 12 or 13-year-old, away from home, the not knowing, the saying goodbye to his family for great lengths of time, and at the same time enjoying his new family and strong friendships that he made as a Colemanite, as he was called. He no longer had to walk the mile or so to school, but he did have to wear shoes all day. Shoes that were no longer relegated to the bush. because as part of his schooling, he had to polish his shoes every single evening and lay them out for inspection. First, he'd polish them, then he'd shine them, and then he'd lay them out. And I know this because he carried this ritual with him into adulthood when, on Sunday evenings, he would polish and shine his shoes with the very same brushes that he carried with him from boarding school. And I would use this brush too to shine my shoes when I was at home. Before my father went to boarding school, his brother, my uncle, carved my father's name, A. Calnan, for Arthur Calnan, into the wood of the shoe shine brush. A carefully carved memory of ritual and reverence, permanently etched there. How we navigate these times is certainly a one step at a time practice. Each and every step we take is a precious one. And how are we going to be with this time that has been collectively carved out for us right now? Can we welcome in this same degree of ritual, of reverence, of care to each and every step we choose to take as we walk in their footsteps, in his footsteps, in the footsteps of our ancestors? So regardless of how we adorn our feet, how would our ancestors wish for us to step forth now as we co-create this new world? And how do you wish to be in this world now? And we still have the brush. It's in my mother's house. And I do one day have an idea of taking it to get repaired. If anyone watches the repair shop on TV, it's on British TV anyway, and they repair items that are very sentimental to people. So that's a little idea for another day. And Ina's sharing these memories bring a smile to my face and tears to my eyes. That's so beautiful and so precious, isn't it? That's the power of the story. And Christina's sharing it's important to connect with the roots and ancestry, understanding deeper, yes. The past year has been that even more for you, with the wonders unfolding and guarding you. And understanding has been living in Ireland once upon a time, along the way to understand myself deeper. That's so beautiful, Katarina from Finland. Christina. That's really gorgeous. So that's the shoe shine brush and the school on the hill. Aparajita saying these stories keep us connected to our ancestors. I share my childhood memories with my daughter. Yeah, that's gorgeous. Really, really precious stories. So the next one is called Nostalgia. Saturday mornings was harp lesson time. My eldest sister and I learned Irish harp for many a teenage year. On a side note, I actually wanted to learn the violin, but I learned the harp instead. I might not have been the coolest teenager in town, according to my children now, but I loved how harp lesson time meant I was transported to another world in an instant. A world of alert aliveness and flow, presence and in the zoneness where time becomes irrelevant. Each string vibrating their own rhythmic magic as I pluck, persevere, practice and pluck again, becoming more and more masterful as time goes by. A world where I could really feel the emotion of the music, that goes beyond words as my fingers connect with each string and create an artfully sweet tune most of the time. John O'Donoghue says that music is what language would love to be if it could. But writing evokes similar feelings for me now when I'm in that flow. It helps me listen to the music of my soul and remember who I am. My father would drive us up to Marley Park at the foothills of the Dublin Mountains, to the old stony courtyard where we had our lesson. Navigating our way past the noisy resident peacocks and in through Cullum, the harp maker's very dusty and dimly lit workshop, up the wooden stairs and into a grand bare room to sit by the window, bare floorboards to be taught by our teacher. And our music wafting out into the courtyard and the draught of the cool breeze. And my father, once he dropped us off, myself and my sister, would stride off purposefully on his walk to appreciate the park's freeing beauty, no matter what the weather was. He loved being outdoors. And I visit the park regularly whenever I go back to Dublin. A dark brown weathered outline remains on the door where Column's shiny brass harp maker plaque used to be. And now the door is painted over in glossy contemporary green as a new artist has taken over of these renovated houses. And such are the many layers of memory that are wrapped up in the transience of time, evoking a kind of nostalgia that transports me home. To the harp. And Marley Park is still a very beautiful park to visit. Okay. So these are the life stories. And now we move into the next phase, death. Are you ready? Death with a smile. That doesn't really sound very appropriate, does it? Anyway. Jan, hi. I love these memories wrapped up in the transience of time. Yes. Mount Venus. My father used to tell a story of how he proposed marriage to my mother with the line, "Would your ancestors like to be buried with my ancestors?" He didn't talk like that. I never really got the joke, to be honest. I would go off into a whirlwind of planning and strategizing in my mind. How would that practically work? My father from West Cork, my mother from West Kerry. That would require a lot of consensus, upheaval to make his dreams come true. My mother's uncle was called Morris, grandfather Jim's brother. Our granduncle, born in Cuasavudig in Dingle. He moved to Dublin as an adult. He was head teacher working in Dublin, as was his wife, Auntie Teresa. Uncle Morris worked in the boys' school and Auntie Teresa worked in the girls' school. They were the reason my parents moved to Rathfarnham, to our family home, to be near them and have family support around in Dublin. It must have been such a big deal moving from rural Ireland, from the Gaeltacht, Irish-speaking regions, to the anglicised Dublin city to work and raise their families. Uncle, auntie, and cousins. They would swoop in whenever called. It was our tradition on Christmas Eve to walk down the road to their house, and they always gave us pajamas as presents. There would be lots of whiskey and brandy drunk by the adults, as the children fought over our favourite quality street chocolates, washed down with fizzy lemonade. And I remember the laughter and the hum of chatter, infused with the spirit of whiskey. My father persuaded me to take the job as ceannara, as leader at Irish College in the summer of 1992 in Dingle. Auntie Teresa would feed me up with fresh homemade blackberry pie and lashings of cream. The fresh air makes you hungry, she would say. And she loved hearing all the juicy gossip that I had to share with her from the day's events. And I remember Uncle Morris and Auntie Teresa in their retirement, walking hand in hand along Bale Bawn Beach near their house, pottering around the garden or watching the Kingdom of Kerry win another game of Gaelic football. For they had retired to the land of their roots, their West Kerry ancestors. Uncle Morris was so distraught when my father died that he bought a plot beside my father in the graveyard. It laid empty for quite some time. Auntie Teresa died first, and Uncle Morris died just after his 90th birthday. And there they all rest now, in Mount Venus Cemetery, head to head, back to back. My father facing east, looking out over the panorama of Dublin city below and on to the Irish Sea. Uncle Morris and Auntie Teresa facing west, towards the rolling hills of the Dublin mountains. Her ancestors buried alongside him, together forever, beneath the earth of Mount Venus, resting in divine union, returning home to love. That one gets me every time. Yeah. Pure truth. So the wish came through, true, true and true. Okay. What's next? It can't be storytelling without the Rosary, apparently. So the next one is called the Rosary. The hospital room, it was spacious enough to accommodate us all. His wife, son, daughters, sisters, brother, in-laws, neighbours, nurses, nieces, nephews. All of us rounded up to be here for that precise moment. The staff had moved him out of the communal room and into a single room in preparation. Expectantly, we waited for death to reclaim him. His final exhale was the cue we were all waiting for. The cue for the Rosary to begin. It gave us something to do, something to hold on to when the unimaginable had just happened. The final breath of husband, brother, uncle, father, friend. They had predicted he had 5 months, yet he went in 3 weeks. It was as if that prediction sped up his departure. Together, we prayed in reverence to him, in this repetitive call and response type manner. My cousin, untangling his rosary beads, initially took the lead, anointing him with our words to accompany his onward journey as his soul traveled home along their vibratory energies. The repetition of each decade of the Rosary, of which there are many, lulling us into a trance-like meditation, soothing our distraught hearts and shaken souls. A prayer for every year of his life. The Rosary ritual that I was so used to growing up as Irish Catholic was drawing us even closer together in communion of support and sympathy for each other. It became the container for our loss, for our sorrow, for our not knowing. An expansive container to hold it all at this most sacred threshold. The atmosphere in the room was alive with resonance and alight with the presence of spirit. The way of the rose found me. The radical path of the divine feminine hidden in the Rosary. Written by wife and husband Perdita Finn and Clark Strand, this book is a reclamation of, in their words, one of the world's oldest living spiritual devotions. That book totally changed my opinion of the Rosary and prayer in general, to be honest. Aspects of my Catholic upbringing that I had rejected in more recent years. Until she gently called me back home to my native roots. We prayed many rosaries in those days, immediately preceding my father's final breath in February 1994. At the wake celebration, at his removal, his funeral, his burial, at his month's mind, and all those sacred stages of this Indigenous Irish death ritual. And as the earth reclaimed my father for his soul's onward journey, I would eventually go on my own journey of reclamation of my divine feminine by reconnecting with that very same earth in which he is buried. The effect this continues to have for me is one of activation of the ancient primordial spirit of those Celtic lands within me. And I now know that the poems, these stories, these sharings that we write, these are also our unique form of sacred rosary prayers. The way of the rose is the golden grail. And we're remembering our golden gnosis. And this is the bridge to awakening into our ancient new earth of abundant peace and prosperity for all. Bridget, who the Rosary is also attributed to, continues to hold the flame. Thank you. Ooh. Feels like a storytelling marathon. Oh, take a moment here. And allow the words to infuse you. The book is called The Way of the Rose. Let's see, I can copy it in here for you. Beautiful. I'm sure there are people here that have read it. Okay. So the next story I have shared on many an occasion, and it also wanted to be included in here. I mean, how could it not be included on my father's birthday? Happy birthday, Dad. This one is called Returning Home to Love. A healer visited my father in the hospital where he was being treated for cancer in early 1994. And I arrived in to see him just as the healing session had come to an end. And I remember the healer looking downwards, not making eye contact with me. And I remember my father, cheeks aglow and smiling, his eyes raised up and pointing to the white hospital ceiling with his pale hand, uttered one word: resurrection. And there was a certain aura about him, like this afterglow of protection from the healing session, as if he was being held in a bubble of peace, of readiness, of acceptance for his journey ahead, onward from mortal body to spirit. He was ready. This was his time. He took his final breath a few days later in the presence of his family, as I shared in the Rosary, and it was an early departure nonetheless for us flesh and bone mortals that would lead to our individual and unique grieving journeys. Resurrection. It was the last word I remember my father uttering out loud. And he had gifted me, us, a clue. A clue for me to consciously connect with and weave into my life when it was time. So the etymology of resurrection means arising again from the dead, to rise again, appear again, to rise again, to lift oneself, to be restored, to stand up, to rise up. Freddie Silva, in his book, talks about the ancient practice of a living resurrection, in which initiates ritually died and were reborn into a state of higher consciousness. And throughout the world, our ancestors practiced the craft within their mystery schools, where initiates were led through a series of challenges, retreated for 3 days into the cave or restricted room and connected with the other world, the cosmos, to return renewed, reborn, and I imagine full of stories to share with people, the ancient lore. Living resurrection is said to have been revived by the Knights Templar, and this practice opened the path to self-empowerment and higher consciousness. It is time. We are being called to rise up above the density of these times and to release those parts of ourselves that are no longer serving us, to gift them back to the mother who is waiting with arms outstretched, to remember who we are as we return to our full and wholesome power that resides within each one of us, waiting so patiently to be connected with, reconnected with. We are being born anew and are returning home to love. Resurrect, stand up, rise up. My Father has gifted us the clues. Gorgeous. So allow that to flow through you, and the invitation is for your connection to the resurrection and how that wants to weave through you. But what a word to go out with, eh? Yeah. Yeah, that's gorgeous. The generosity of our ancestors is beautiful for us all, weaving. Christina saying beautiful weavings, Eimear, deeply felt. Thank you. Okay. It's actually only two more. I actually thought I may have had too many. I think there's 9 stories in total, but two more. This one's called The Visitation, and it has to follow after the resurrection. It felt very biblical when, on the 3rd day, he rose again, wearing his black suit, white shirt, and red tie, his burial clothes. He looked so real and human, standing there at the end of my bed, gazing at me lovingly as if to say, well, hurry up. We've got my funeral to go to. Get a move on. I had just woken up. And when I saw him, I thought his death had all been a dream, that it hadn't actually happened. I felt so much relief. And the relief, it still lingers in that moment. But what I remember most from my dad's visitation was how instantaneously that relief turned to grief. For in that moment, I knew he was gone. It hit me with such a force, directly in my chest and heart, sending shockwaves throughout my whole body, causing me to splutter and shake and sob my Irish eyes out again in the single bed of my childhood home. It was like he wanted to say one final goodbye to his family through me. His silent, smiling presence let me know that he was at peace, that death is nothing to be feared, and we do indeed carry on in other kinds of forms. The energy of his visit infused me with a deep calmness for his funeral that day and all that followed. And his presence helped me feel my own presence so that I could take my place in his funeral celebration, to speak for him, as him, to soothe the broken hearts and souls of all who are impacted by his death. And what a powerful divine support he was and is gifting me from the other side. I feel his presence stronger than ever as I walk this path home, healing our lineage across all timelines, wiping the slate clean for future generations to live out their truth, unburdened, uninhibited, and free again. His visitation that morning serves as another anchor in my wheel of life, a key moment that I will always remember and cherish as I continue to learn from a fully inhabited, expansive, soulful self. Thanks, Dad, for that visit and the long Irish goodbye. What a celebration this has been, eh? So I do have one more story, and it's just gone past 15:55, which is beautiful. And this one sums it all up, really, as part of these birthday celebrations of the Divine Father, which is so beautifully supported by this full moon, this Cancer full moon, infused with so much mother energy, divine mother energy. So this final story is simply called 7 Lessons from My Father. Number 1, the power of stories, wit, humor, love, and laughter. They were his medicine of choice. He always had funny stories to tell in a way that made us laugh. He was great company with an awe-inspiring intelligence that was nimble and loving. Whether it was about the mischief he got up to as a child with his siblings growing up in West Cork, or his adventures in boarding school as a teenager, or of the life of his parents and previous generations, they always interested me. And now I continue this thread, pass these stories on to my children, and his legacy lives on through us, his children, through story and through the land. Lesson number 2. Appreciate life. Enjoy the journey through this life with the finite time that we have here. Lesson number 3. Breathe deeply. We used to go on Sunday walks up the Dublin Mountains after Mass, and he would exclaim that we were all to breathe in the freshness of the pure mountain air, open our arms and inhale deeply. He loved being outside, and I breathe deeply today in his honor. I invite you to do so too. Lesson number 4. Listen deeply. Pay exquisite attention. Lesson number 5. The power of prayer. Every night, my father would diligently get down on both knees and pray by his bed. Head bowed, hands clasped in deep meditation. His spirituality radiated from him. Lesson number 6. Sing. Any line of any song, it didn't matter. He would break into song spontaneously, and I remember him through these songs. And I find myself doing the same as well. And finally, lesson number 7 from my father. Die gracefully. He knew when it was time to go, to leave his earthen body, to let go, to surrender, and breathe his final breath, completing his life loop with that final exhale. Surrounded by his family, extended family, and friends. A beautiful and graceful way to go. The end. Thank you all for listening. It's very beautiful. Firstly, to be able to share these stories with you all and to receive such beautiful feedback back. And Rama's saying, oh, it's gone. Your dad loved to sing. His deep resonance voice and earthy belly laughter sings in your bones and belly. That's gorgeous. His last words. Yes, so beautiful. Really beautiful. Get tingles up here. And Cindy is saying all of these stories are so nostalgic, so evocative of your own childhood memories here in South Africa. What a blessing to return to years of yonder. Yeah, really gorgeous. And welcome, Linda from Dorset. Evie saying I was 8 years old when first discovered the Atlantic Ocean. Noirmoutier Island in France. A magical fiery sunset etched forever in your memory. That's gorgeous. Really gorgeous. Oh, Anna, you'd like me to share the 7 lessons one more time? I will do. One more time. I will read the lessons. Number 1, the power of stories, wit, humor, love, and laughter. Number 2, appreciate life. 3, breathe deeply. 4, listen deeply. 5, the power of prayer. 6, sing. And 7, die gracefully. Jan is sharing, thank you so much. This honoring will pay forward into our world. Oh, I love that. Yeah, the ripples and the honoring. Lorna, hello. Thank you, Eimear. Thank you. Katarina, so beautiful. Thank you so very much for sharing. You're so welcome. Patty, hello. So beautiful. Such good reminders for life and his gifts to you. Yes. Kay, I think it's fabulous that you have father memories. My dad was an immigrant family who wanted to forget. Oh, I honor you so much, Kay, for sharing that. Yes. Like a cozy blanket keeping us warm. Yes. Ina, you have my heart this morning. Thank you for sharing this love and these blessings. You're so welcome. Thank you. Lovely to reconnect to our fathers. Yes. Thank you for sharing these lovely stories. Sonia's sharing. I have many of your similar ones to tell. Oh, yes, to your family. Yes. Anna, blessings and peace. You're so welcome. Cindy, thank you for sharing and allowing us to share in these sacred stories. You're so welcome. Songful birthday art. Thank you. Thank you for the memories and remembrance of all dear dads across the bridge, as my dad used to sing so beautifully in his Jim Reeves voice. Yes. Karen, thank you. We'll appreciate West Cork even more next time I'm home. Oh, that's gorgeous. Yeah. I love visiting there and remembering. And Jessica, you loved the pause between the stories. Yes, the sacred pause. May we all be so blessed as to have loved ones, keeping our memories alive as you are now doing, my dear. What a gesture of love. You're so welcome. And Janine says thank you as well. Yeah, that's really beautiful, isn't it? That what stories will be told of us. Not sure I want to hear them all, but yeah, what stories are going to be told of us when we pass on? They better be good. I'm joking. Okay, well, that is it. Let the birthday celebrations continue on as you go about your day, about your evening. And if anyone does wish to connect deeper with the story of the land, the story of Eru, the places of our ancestors, We still have spaces on the Sacred Storytelling Retreat in DINGLE, County Kerry, which is the place of my ancestors in Cuas Vudig, and where Uncle Morris and Grandad Jim grew up, and my mother in DINGLE. So I've put the link there in Zoom. And also, if anyone wishes to receive one-on-one support for anything that came up today, to support your sacred journey, your sacred story, or even your writings as well, inspiration for writing, then I've popped in the link there to soul-based coaching sessions. And all of these can be found on my website, eimearstassin.com. Have the most beautiful day. And it's been such a sumptuous, sacred time here to step out of the day to come into this space. So let us release our connection now to each other and call your energy back in, back home, and allow everything that was shared here to continue to flow and integrate and land within you. And go forth now and continue to walk the path of your unique story. And happy birthday one last time to Arthur and to all the divine masculine that is rising now and coming back into union with divine feminine within us all. So much love. Until we meet again. Blessings.